The scanner takes the shipping manifest halfway in, makes a sound like a fork caught in a garbage disposal, and stops. I reach for the emergency release, but Evan gets there first. "Don't touch it again." His voice carries across the Monday shift. 6 heads lift above 6 gray cubicles. On the other side of the glass wall, Pelican Mutual's claims team can hear every word. Evan pulls the mangled page free. A black roller mark runs straight through the Coast Guard's seal. "You broke it," he says. Maintenance is already kneeling beside us with the scanner's panel open. I'm still holding the gray calibration card I ran through the machine 10 minutes earlier. "It jammed on the second batch," I say. "After you calibrated it. During normal use." Evan turns his laptop toward me. The payroll screen shows a new deduction under my name. Equipment damage, $3,860. "Full replacement cost," he says. Initial here. Luis Ortega, the maintenance technician, leans close to the open machine and shines a pen light across the serial plate. He reads it twice, then stands. "Ms. Shaw?" he calls quietly toward the glass office. "Could you come look at this?" Priya Shah, Pelican's Document Services Director, steps out with her coffee in one hand. Luis taps the plate. "This unit is from the recalled production run." He types on his service tablet. A label printer on his cart spits out a red tag. "Factory-Defective." For 3 seconds, the only sound in the room is the little printer cutting the tag. Priya looks at it, then at Evan's payroll screen. "Why?" she asks. "Are you charging your employee for a machine under factory warranty?" Evan closes the laptop. That is the moment I know being right will not save me. Luis stuck the red tag over the scanner's start button. The adhesive caught at one corner, and he smoothed it down with his thumb. Evan watched him do it. He had a handsome face when things were going his way. It was one reason people trusted him with bad news. Even while telling a client that a flooded warehouse would take 6 weeks to process, he could make the delay sound like a favor he had negotiated personally with time. Now his face went smooth in a different way. "We don't know that the recall caused this specific jam," he said. Luis sat back on his heels. "The feed assembly is visibly warped." "Visibly to whom?" "To me." "And you represent the manufacturer?" "I represent the authorized service company." Priya set her coffee on the intake counter. "Is the unit covered or not?" "It's covered," Luis said. "Then remove it from production and send me the service report." Evan gave a small, reasonable nod, as though this had been his preferred outcome all along. "Of course. We'll transfer the open batches to Unit 4. Unit 4 has the color profile issue," I said. His eyes cut to me. It was reflex. That was my mistake. When a fact was wrong, I corrected it. I had been doing that since I joined Tidelock 3 years earlier, and Evan used to say it was why he put me in charge of intake. Now he smiled. "Thank you, Mara. I'll handle the workflow." The damaged manifest lay between us. It had come from a carton of storm files shipped up from Gulfport, every page faintly gritty along the edges. Before scanning, we removed fasteners, pressed curled corners under acrylic boards, and separated anything with active mold into a hooded drying station. Pelican insured freight carriers, port operators, tug companies, and half the businesses that made their money from things arriving where they were supposed to. The page in front of me documented a refrigeration failure aboard a banana carrier. One black stripe through one seal could shift 6 figures of liability onto the wrong party. Evan picked it up by the corner. "Reprint this. It's an original. Then clean the image. We don't alter seals." Mara. Priya was still there. So were Denise at prep, Calvin at indexing, Rosa at quality control, and 3 people pretending to organize empty folders. I laid the calibration card on the counter. It was a laminated strip about the size of a restaurant menu, printed with 7 gray bands, a ruler grid, and a row of tiny color squares. There was a coffee stain near the bottom from before I started at Tidelock. Every morning, I scanned it through each unit and saved the result with the time, operator number, and machine ID. "This passed at 7:51, I said. "The jam happened at 8:03. The machine had been hesitating since installation. I opened 2 warranty tickets. Evan slid the card toward me with one finger. This isn't the time. Luis looked up from his tablet. Do you have those ticket numbers? I can send them. Send them to me too, Priya said. Evan's smile stayed in place, but the skin around it tightened. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. A defective component doesn't mean operator handling played no role. Luis removed the feed assembly and held it over a white service cloth. The metal bar bowed in the center so clearly that even I could see daylight beneath it. Unless she bent steel through the plastic housing, he said, operator handling played no role. Denise made a noise behind her hand. It might have been a cough. With Denise, it was sometimes both. Evan looked at her, and the room snapped back into motion. Keyboard keys began clicking. File drawers opened and shut. Calvin wheeled a cart toward Unit 4 with great concentration. Priya picked up her coffee. I want corrected uptime reporting for the period that machine was installed. Please have it by Wednesday. We'll get it to you, Evan said, and reverse the deduction. That was provisional. It had my employee ID and the full amount, I said. He turned to me so slowly, I wished I had kept my mouth shut, which made me angrier for wishing it. A payroll misunderstanding, he said. I understood it. Priya glanced at the glass office where 2 members of her team were now studying their monitors with rigid devotion. Reverse it, she repeated, and went back inside. Luis packed the warped assembly in foam. Before he closed his case, he handed me a narrow printout from his service tablet. Serial number and disposition, he said, for your records. Evan saw me fold it and put it in the clear pocket behind my badge. By 9, Unit 4 was running. Its scans leaned slightly green, so Rosa and I built a temporary profile that kept blue custom stamps from turning gray. By 10:30, we had recovered most of the lost production. At 11, payroll emailed me a correction notice. The $3,860 line had disappeared. In its place was a note, manager entry error. No apology, no explanation. Just 3 words that made it look as if Evan's fingers had slipped. I printed it anyway. The printer near Denise's desk wheezed before releasing the page. She waited until I had folded it into quarters. Careful, she said. With what? Being correct in public. Denise had worked in document imaging since people still used microfilm jackets. She wore bright reading glasses on a beaded chain and kept a jar of peppermints beside her keyboard that no one was permitted to take without asking. I didn't arrange the recall, I said. You think that matters to a man who just got undressed in front of his biggest client? That's a vivid way to put it. She offered me a peppermint. I took one. At lunch, Evan sent me a calendar invitation titled Monday Alignment. Location, his office. Attendees, him and me. His office was inside the Tidelock suite at the other end of the building, past the locked storage cage and the drying room. The air there always smelled faintly of warm paper and vinegar from the mold treatment trays. On the wall behind his desk hung a photograph of Evan and my sister Celia, cutting the ribbon at Tidelock's first warehouse. Celia held the scissors. Evan had one hand at the small of her back and the other lifted toward the camera. He didn't ask me to sit. I reversed the deduction. I saw. You could say thank you. For returning money you shouldn't have taken. His jaw moved once. I made a decision based on the facts available. Maintenance was standing beside you. I watched you force a curled original into a brand new scanner. I didn't force it. The rollers pulled unevenly. You always have an answer. I run intake. Answers are part of the job. He leaned against his desk. He had rolled his sleeves to exactly the same height on both forearms. That was Evan. A man could be drowning in front of him, and he would straighten the life preserver before throwing it. Pelican is watching us, he said. This contract is 42% of current revenue. I know. Do you? Because Priya asked for corrected uptime reports. If she decides we misrepresented performance, she can trigger a review. The reports should be corrected. That sentence right there, that tone. You say things like consequences occur in a laboratory. Closing warranty tickets didn't make the scanner work. His eyes sharpened. Excuse me? I opened 2 tickets. Both were closed under your login. The manufacturer's technician couldn't come until Thursday. We had a deadline Monday. And now we have a damaged original. 1 page with a roller mark, a Coast Guard seal. I know what was on it. I looked at him. Then why did you tell me to clean the image? Color rose above his collar. For a moment, I saw him deciding which version of himself to use. The angry boss would feel good but look bad. The wounded relative had always worked better on me. He turned toward the ribbon-cutting photograph. Celia put our house behind this company, he said. There it was. She put the house behind the expansion you wanted. The expansion that employs 23 people. The expansion you underbid. He looked back at me. You don't know what you're talking about. I know we staffed Pelican for 900,000 pages a month, and they're sending 1.3 million. And I'm negotiating an adjustment. When? When I have leverage. We don't have leverage. We have wet cartons and a defective scanner. His voice dropped. We have a chance to prove we can handle the volume before we ask for more money. That was the strategy. Until this morning, it was working. The implication sat between us, until I embarrassed him, until I let a machine fail where the client could see it, until maintenance wrote the truth in red. He walked around the desk and sat. You're being reassigned. I almost laughed because the words were so clean. To what? Night indexing starting tomorrow. I supervise intake. Calvin will take intake. Calvin has been here 4 months. He's fast. He indexed a reefer claim as a reef claim last week. He corrected it. Rosa corrected it. Evan opened a folder on his desk. My name was printed on the tab. The client needs a calmer point of contact. Did Priya say that? The client does not need to say everything directly. Did she say she didn't want me? This isn't a debate. He slid a form across the desk. Shift reassignment, effective Tuesday. My hourly rate remained the same, but the lead differential was gone. So was the monthly quality bonus. I did the math before I could stop myself. $640, give or take, on a good month. Celia knows? I asked. This is an operational decision. That means no. That means I don't ask my wife for permission to manage my staff. I stared at my name on the form. The paper had a faint blue edge from sitting under a divider. He had not created it after lunch. You printed this before the scanner jammed. His gaze dropped to the page for less than a second. That was enough. I thought about the 2 warranty tickets, both closed, the way he had appeared beside the scanner before I could touch the release. The payroll deduction already entered with the exact replacement cost. What were you planning to say happened? I asked. His chair creaked as he leaned back. Sign the acknowledgement. You already knew the machine was failing. I knew you were not adapting. To defective equipment. To pressure. The phone on his desk lit with Celia's name. He looked at it, then turned it face down. Sign, Mara. I signed only to confirm receipt and wrote, in the blank space below my name, reassignment issued after documented factory defect and reversed equipment deduction. Evan read the sentence. You really can't help yourself. I capped his pen and set it precisely on top of the form. No, I said. That's why you hired me. When I returned to the Pelican floor, the defective scanner was gone. A pale rectangle remained in the dust where it had sat. Luis's red tag had been peeled from the start button and stuck to the side of the maintenance cart. The gray calibration card was still on the counter. I picked it up and found a fresh crease running through the middle, deep enough to split the laminate. On the back, in Evan's handwriting, someone had written, Night Shift. Denise saw it over my shoulder. He does like a visual aid, she said. Through the glass wall, Priya was reading the maintenance report Luis had sent. She looked up and met my eyes. Then she glanced toward Evan's office and back at me. I slipped the calibration card into its red sleeve. For the first time since the scanner jammed, I understood that the $3,860 had never been the whole punishment. It had only been the part he thought he could make everyone watch. The crease in the calibration card caught against the lip of Unit 2. I flattened it with my palm and tried again. The scanner accepted it, humming softly enough that I could hear the ventilation fans above the night floor. At 7:58, the diagnostic image appeared on my monitor. 7 gray bands, ruler grid, color squares. Acceptable drift. I saved it under my operator number and machine ID, then wrote the timestamp in the paper log. Are we allowed to do that at night? I turned. Leon Price stood behind me wearing a reflective vest over a t-shirt that said, "Ask me about my ferrets." He was Tidelock's night lead, though lead mostly meant he knew which ceiling tile leaked when it rained. Calibrate the equipment? I asked. Use paper. Why wouldn't we be? He pointed toward the plastic tray beside the scanner. It was empty. Day shift stopped leaving logs. When? 3 weeks ago. Calvin said Evan wanted everything digital. My 2 warranty requests had been submitted 3 weeks ago. Where are the old ones? Leon shrugged. Denise might know. Denise knows where the building would keep its skeleton if the building ever died. He held out a peppermint. You've been talking to her. I'm trying to stay on her good side. Does she have another one? Not for you. He ate it and wandered back toward his station. The night floor handled indexing, exception review, and the ugly files daytime production didn't finish. Those files came to us in yellow trays labeled hold, torn pages, missing claim numbers, handwritten vessel names that looked like medical emergencies, photographs stuck together by floodwater. Most had to be matched manually against Pelican's claim database. Evan had described night indexing as if he were lowering me into a mine. The work itself didn't bother me. What bothered me was the neatness of the demotion. He had moved me away from the machines while giving me responsibility for every mistake they produced. At 8:30, my queue filled with 417 pages from Unit 4. Every image leaned green. I opened the color profile Rosa and I had built, but someone had removed it from the shared folder. I checked the archive, found the version from Monday, and restored it under a new name. At 8:42, an administrator message appeared. File deleted. Mara_V temp profile. I restored it again. Deleted. Leon rolled his chair over. You having a custody battle with a folder? Someone doesn't want the correction profile running. Maybe the computer has strong artistic opinions. I checked the access history. Administrator deletions weren't tied to a visible user. Can you pull the green images from the queue? I asked. All 400? Unless you want blue custom stamps indexed as mold. He whistled. That sounds like Daytime's problem. If we pass them, it becomes quality control's problem. Then it becomes Pelican's problem. Then it becomes everybody's problem with more meetings. The natural life cycle of a problem. We quarantined the batch. I documented the color drift, attached the morning calibration image, and sent the exception notice through the client portal. 7 minutes later, my desk phone rang. Evan didn't say hello. Why did you flag an entire batch? Because it failed color validation. Rosa approved the temporary profile. It was deleted. Then rerun it. I restored it twice. It was deleted twice. A pause. Probably a sync issue. Probably. Don't use that tone. What tone? The one where you pretend you didn't accuse anyone. I didn't accuse anyone. There, that one. Behind me, Leon covered his mouth with both hands. I turned away so Evan wouldn't hear me laugh. You don't need to submit internal corrections through Pelican's portal, he said. The batch was already in their queue. You could have called Calvin. It's 9:10. He's intake lead. He isn't on shift. That doesn't make you intake lead again. I know. My pay stub made that clear. Silence sharpened on the line. Release the batch, he said. Send that instruction by email. What? If you want images that failed color validation released to the client, send it in writing. I don't have to document every instruction I give you. Then I'm keeping the batch quarantined. He breathed through his nose. Evan usually sounded most dangerous when he was trying not to sound angry. We'll discuss insubordination tomorrow. I'll add it to my calendar. He hung up. Leon waited until the line went dead. You really asked him to put it in writing? Yes. What's it like walking around with organs that large? Expensive. I just lost $600 a month. He rolled back to his desk. Fair. At 11, the color profile stayed in place long enough to rerun the batch. At 11:30, Rosa sent me a message from home. Did you restore V4 profile? Yes. Calvin told me you deleted the approved one. I stared at the screen. Why would I delete the profile I built? 3 dots appeared, vanished, appeared again. He said you were upset about reassignment. I typed 3 different answers and erased all of them. Check the version history. A minute passed. Oh, then, keep screenshots. I already had. At 2 in the morning, Denise arrived carrying a canvas grocery bag and wearing the same bright reading glasses she wore during the day. I looked at the clock. Did you become nocturnal? Inventory audit. Since when? Since I volunteered after your brother-in-law started asking which old batch sheets were still in the building. She set the bag on my desk. Inside were paper calibration logs bundled with blue rubber bands. Drying room cabinet, she said. Bottom drawer behind the mold masks. Why were they there? Because Calvin was told to shred them, and Calvin is fast but distractible. I untied the first bundle. The pages covered all 4 scanners from the week the new machine was installed. My initials appeared down the left side. The defective unit's results worsened by small increments. Double feed at the upper tolerance. Skew correction climbing. Roller pressure errors that cleared after restart and returned the next morning. I logged all of this digitally. Somebody replaced the digital entries with clean passes. I looked at her. Denise adjusted her glasses. You thought you were the only person who printed things? The altered reports showed lower downtime and no unresolved mechanical issues. My warranty ticket numbers were absent. On one date, the machine had supposedly passed calibration at 7:45 under Calvin's operator ID. Calvin's time card showed he hadn't arrived until 8:20. What's Evan using these reports for? I asked. Client dashboard, bonus calculations, whatever story he needs that morning. Priya asked for corrected uptime. Yes. He has until tomorrow. Also yes. I spread the original logs across the desk. If he sends her the altered numbers, he'll say he relied on the system. He closed my tickets. He'll say the tickets were duplicates. He charged me for the scanner. He'll say payroll error. You have the correction notice proving that's already his story. Denise's voice wasn't discouraging. It was surgical. She wanted me to see how every fact could be softened when it stood alone. I touched the clear pocket behind my badge. Luis's service printout was still folded inside. Serial number, recall designation, factory-defective disposition. What would you do? I asked. Stop asking questions you only ask when you don't like your own answer. That's annoyingly wise. It's mostly annoying. She gathered the logs into 2 piles. Scan these, she said. Keep the images in the normal archive where they belong. Don't build a secret kingdom. Secret kingdoms make people look guilty. And the paper? Paper goes back in the drying room, where Evan can find it, where company records are stored. I scanned every sheet. The gray calibration card went through last, its crease throwing a thin shadow across the center band. I saved that image too. Just before dawn, a formal request arrived through the Pelican portal. From Priya Shah. Subject: Equipment Variance Support. Please provide source documentation for scanner calibration and downtime from installation through removal. Include operator-level entries and service history. Evan was copied. So was I. Denise read it over my shoulder. Someone in the glass office can smell smoke. Or Luis told her where the matches were. My phone buzzed with a text from Celia. "Dinner tonight. Just us. Please." I looked at the word us and knew Evan would be there. He was already seated when I arrived at the Italian place Celia liked near the river. He had ordered sparkling water for the table and turned the label toward the wall so the server could remove it neatly. Celia stood to hug me. She was 5 years older than me and wore exhaustion beautifully. That was one of her talents. Her dark hair was twisted into a low knot, and her gold earrings matched the buttons on her jacket. She looked like she had just left a client meeting, which she probably had. "You look tired," she said. "Night shift." Her mouth tightened. "I know." Evan studied the menu. I sat across from them. The arrangement felt less like dinner than an interview with people who already had my resume. Celia touched my hand. "I want to clear the air." "Which part?" "Mara." "I'm asking." Evan folded the menu. "The reassignment is temporary." "That's new." "If the Pelican review settles down." "You mean if I settle down?" "I mean if we restore confidence." The server came for our drink orders. Celia asked for wine, then changed her mind and ordered tea. Evan requested a different table because cold air was coming from the vent. The server moved us 6 feet to the left. No one spoke until he walked away. Celia leaned toward me. "The house is tied to the credit line," Evan told me. Her eyes flicked toward him. "He shouldn't have used that." "But it's true," Evan said. "That doesn't mean you use it." I explained the stakes. "You blamed the stakes on me." He sat back. "Here we go." Celia's shoulders changed. At work, she filled rooms. Beside Evan, she sometimes folded herself into smaller versions, each one easier to defend. I hated him for that. I also hated that she let him. "The scanner was defective," I said. "Maintenance confirmed it in front of Priya." "I understand," Celia said. "He took nearly $4,000 from my pay. He reversed it. After Priya made him." Evan looked toward the bar. Celia lowered her voice. "What do you want him to do?" "Say it." "Say what?" "That he knew the machine had problems before Monday." Evan laughed once. "This is why we can't move forward. She doesn't want resolution. She wants a confession." "I want the corrected uptime report sent to Pelican." "I sent it this afternoon." I looked at him. "Good," I said. "Then there's no problem." His water glass stopped halfway to his mouth. Celia noticed. "What?" she asked. "Nothing," he said. The server returned, and Evan ordered for both of them. Celia led him. I excused myself before the food arrived. Celia followed me outside. Wind came off the river hard enough to lift loose strands of her hair. She wrapped her arms around herself. "You could have stayed," she said. "So he could tell me I'm hurting the family between appetizers?" "He's under pressure." "So am I." "I know." "No, you know I'm upset. That isn't the same thing." She looked through the window at Evan, sitting alone beneath a hanging lamp. "He built this with me," she said. "So did I." Her face changed. Not much, just enough. I had never asked to be called a founder. I hadn't brought in the first client or signed the warehouse lease. I had built the intake system, trained the first operators, written the quality controls, and spent 3 hurricane seasons sleeping 4 hours a night. In our family, Evan and Celia owned the company. I helped. "That's not what I meant," she said. "It's what you heard." I walked to my car before she could answer. At 7 the next evening, I logged into the Pelican portal. Evan's corrected uptime report was attached to Priya's request. The defective scanner showed 2 hours and 11 minutes of total mechanical downtime across 3 weeks. My original logs showed 17 hours and 43 minutes. The warranty tickets were listed as operator training inquiries. At the bottom of the report, beside the words "Source verified against production system," was an electronic approval. Mara Velez, intake supervisor. He had used my old title and my name. I downloaded the report, opened the paper log, and placed the creased gray calibration card beside it. Then I called Leon over. "Tell me what time Calvin came in on September 12th. Leon checked the timekeeping system. 8:23. The report showed my approval at 7:59 under Calvin's operator session. Leon looked at me. The humor went out of his face. That's ugly. Yes? What are you going to do? Across the room, Unit 4 pulled in a stack of manifests. Its green status light blinked steadily, patient as a heartbeat. I took Luis's folded service printout from behind my badge and laid it beside Evan's report. First, I said, I'm going to make sure I'm not the only person who can prove it. I attached the original calibration logs to the same source archive Evan had cited, then asked Leon to verify that the files opened from his workstation. He clicked through 3 of them. Timestamps, operator numbers, little crooked lines. Riveting. Now, email me exactly what you just said. The riveting part? The part where you accessed them. Leon's eyebrows rose. You want me in the splash zone. I want a normal chain of custody. That sounds like a splash zone with paperwork. He sent the email. I added Rosa as quality reviewer because her approval was already on the temporary color profile. Denise confirmed where the paper logs were stored. Then I answered Priya's portal request. I am unable to validate the submitted uptime report. Attached source records show material differences in downtime, ticket classification, operator sessions, and approval attribution. The electronic approval bearing my name was not entered by me. I read it 4 times. No accusations, no guesses. Every sentence could be checked by someone besides me. I hit send at 8:17. At 8:19, my access to the source archive vanished. At 8:21, Evan called. Come to my office. I'm running a shift. Leon can cover it. He's already covering his own. Mara, I'll be there after batch reconciliation. Now. The line clicked dead. Leon looked at me. Was that the sound of a productive dialogue? Watch the archive permissions. Already screenshotting. I took the creased calibration card from its red sleeve and set it in my desk drawer. Luis's service printout stayed behind my badge. The paper logs remained in the drying room cabinet where Denise had returned them. Evan was waiting with an outside human resources consultant named Gail, whom Tidelock used when it needed forms to look more official. Gail had soft gray curls and the expression of someone who had been told only the nouns. A performance warning lay on the desk. Sit, Evan said. I sat. Gail folded her hands. This conversation concerns breaches of communication protocol and reporting structure. Which protocol? We'll walk through the document. The warning accused me of bypassing management, exposing unverified internal data to a client, disrupting workflow, creating duplicate records, and refusing a direct instruction to release production. The images failed validation, I said. Evan held up one finger. You'll have a chance to respond. I just did. Gail looked at him, then back at the paper. The purpose of corrective action is to establish clear expectations. What expectation would have allowed me to correct a report with my name falsely attached? She stopped reading. Evan said, Your name populated automatically because you were the supervisor assigned when the reporting period began. Then why did it populate under Calvin's session? That's an IT question. Great, let's ask IT. We don't need to turn every software artifact into a conspiracy. Gail removed her glasses. Was Ms. Velez's approval intended to appear on the report? No, Evan said. Then the report should be corrected. His eyes shifted to her. He had expected the nouns to be enough. It already has been, he said. The approval field was removed this morning, after I flagged it to the client. You see? He gestured toward me. Everything becomes a public confrontation. Pelican asked me directly. You could have brought the issue to me. I did, at dinner. Gail's eyes moved between us. At dinner? He's my brother-in-law. The room changed temperature. Evan stood. That is irrelevant. To the warning? I asked. Or to why you thought you could use my name? He leaned over the desk. I am trying to keep this company alive while you collect technicalities like trophies. 17 hours of downtime is not a technicality. It is when we produce the volume anyway, by pushing it through 3 other machines and people working overtime, which is called operations. It's called downtime. Gail put her glasses back on. I think we should pause. Evan did not look at her. Sign the warning. I'll sign receipt and attach a response. No attachment. Gail cleared her throat. She's entitled to submit a written response. He stared at her long enough to make the consulting relationship shorter. I signed receipt. Under my name, I wrote, "Response to follow with supporting records." Evan took the pen before I could cap it. As I stood, he said, "The next refusal of a direct instruction will result in suspension." Gail began gathering her papers. "Could I get that direct instruction in writing?" I asked. Her mouth twitched. Evan saw it. By the next afternoon, Tidelock looked like a company from one of Evan's sales presentations. 2 leased scanners arrived from the mobile site. He moved the drying tables, taped new traffic lanes on the floor, and brought in 6 temporary operators. The defective machine's empty rectangle disappeared beneath a polished replacement. Calvin handed out matching blue lanyards. Someone even cleaned the dust from the artificial plant outside the glass office. Evan worked the floor for 12 hours. That was the difficult thing about him. He was not lazy. He could see bottlenecks before most people saw work. He shifted prep staff by file type, moved exception review closer to indexing, and persuaded Pelican to prioritize simpler claim categories for 48 hours. By Friday, we were ahead of the revised target. He made sure Priya knew. When she toured the floor, he showed her the output dashboard glowing green. Calvin stood beside Unit 1 in a new button-down shirt, explaining the intake sequence I had written. Priya stopped at my night desk. "How are the exception queues?" she asked. 4 hours behind, improving. Evan smiled. Mara has always been excellent with exceptions. It sounded generous. It also told Priya I belonged where he had put me. "The variance records you uploaded are being reviewed," she said. "Thank you." You understand they don't establish who changed the system entries. They establish the system entries don't match the source. Evan's smile remained fixed. "We're doing a full reconciliation." Priya looked at him. "I'll need it before the quarterly review." "You'll have it." She moved on. For the rest of the tour, Evan stayed half a step beside her, answering questions before anyone else could. He knew the job. He knew the client. And now he had numbers that made my objections look small and resentful. At the end of shift, he left a white envelope on my desk. Inside was an offer to restore my lead differential immediately. My title would become Special Project Supervisor. I would retain night hours for 60 days, then transition back to daytime after the Pelican review. The final paragraph required me to acknowledge that report variances resulted from system migration and had been resolved internally. Denise read it without touching it. "Special projects," she said. "That's where companies send people to become past tense. It's $600 back." "It's $600 with a muzzle." "I know." "Then why are you staring at it like it might improve?" "Because my checking account had dropped below $2,000. Because the room I rented above Tidelock's old records annex came through the company, and the rent discount was tied to active lead status. Because Celia had found that room for me after my divorce when I needed somewhere cheap and quiet enough to sleep. Paper can be insulting and useful at the same time," I said. Denise nodded. "Now you sound like an indexer." I declined the offer in writing. The following week, a tropical system stalled south of Louisiana. It never became a hurricane, but it poured over the coast for 3 days and pushed water into a Pelican storage facility through a loading dock. The first emergency shipment reached us at 4 in the afternoon, 36 cartons of active cargo claims, damp at the bottoms and warm from the truck. I was early for night shift when I saw Calvin cutting the seal on carton 12. "You have moisture readings?" I asked. He held up a handheld meter, 8 to 14%. "That's too high for production. Evan wants the dry pages separated and run. They need to acclimate. The top stacks feel fine. Paper transfers before it feels wet. Calvin rubbed 2 sheets between his fingers. We're already behind. We're ahead. Not on storm intake. I looked toward the drying room. Both air tables were full. 3 dehumidifiers hummed against the wall. Open the cartons. Fan the folders. Log moisture by layer. Nothing runs until it's stable. He shook his head. You don't supervise intake. You're right. Call Evan. I already did. Evan came through the secured door 2 minutes later without a jacket. Rain darkened the shoulders of his shirt. Run the dry sections, he said. There aren't dry sections yet. There are dry feeling sections. He took the moisture meter from Calvin and pressed it against a page near the top. 7%. I pulled the sheet beneath it free. A purple custom stamp had ghosted onto the back of the next page. This is why we wait. He examined the transfer. We can separate the affected sheets. We don't know which ones are affected until we separate every page, so separate them. At the tables, under airflow. We do not have 12 hours. The files do. He handed the meter back to Calvin. Prep and scan the top third of each carton. Quarantine anything over 10%. No. The word came out quiet. Calvin looked at the floor. Evan stepped closer. What did you say? If he runs those pages, the pressure rollers can transfer ink and toner between originals. A cargo survey can pick up a stamp from a different claim. Then quality catches it. Quality sees the image. They don't know what transferred before scanning. We will use separator sheets. That protects the scanner. It doesn't protect the documents. His face went still. This is a direct instruction. I know. And you are refusing it. Yes. He looked past me at the intake crew. Every person had found something to do with their hands. Clock out, he said. I felt the words lower through me. Put the instruction in writing and I'll leave. He pulled out his phone and sent the email while standing 3 feet away. You are directed to release visually dry documents under 10% surface moisture for controlled production. I replied from my phone. I cannot release documents while active image transfer is visible. Recommend minimum acclimation and layer testing under drying protocol DR7. His answer came immediately. You are suspended pending review for refusal of a direct operational instruction. Badge, he said. I took it off. Luis's folded service printout was still tucked in the clear pocket behind it. Evan held out his hand. I removed the printout first. What is that? My copy of the maintenance disposition, company record, given to me by the technician, Mara. I folded it into my wallet and placed the badge in his palm. As I walked toward the exit, Rosa came in for an emergency quality shift. She saw the open cartons, the transferred stamp, and Evan holding my badge. What happened? Mara is suspended, he said. Rosa picked up the 2 pages and held them beneath the task light. The ghosted customs mark glowed purple across the fibers. For stopping this. For insubordination. Rosa set the pages down carefully. Then you should suspend me, too. Evan's grip tightened around my badge. Don't be dramatic. I won't approve scans from wet originals. You'll follow the controlled process I established. DR7 says acclimate and layer test. We are modifying the protocol. Then issue the modification to Pelican. He looked toward the glass office. Priya had left for the day, but 2 of her claims analysts were still inside. Enough, he said. Rosa crossed her arms. Calvin put down the carton knife. It was a small thing, the knife touching the counter, a cheap yellow handle against stainless steel. But the intake crew stopped opening boxes. Evan surveyed the room and understood that suspending all of them would leave him with 36 wet cartons and a client who could count. Fine, he said. 2-hour acclimation, then reassess. DR7 requires 12, I said from the doorway. He turned. You no longer work this shift. I left before you could make me leave twice. The notice taped to my apartment door was waiting when I got home. My employee housing discount would end at the close of the month because I no longer held an eligible lead position. The new rent was $900 higher. Celia's signature appeared at the bottom, printed from the property system. I called her. She answered on the fourth ring. Mara? Did you approve the housing notice? What notice? I photographed it and sent it. She stayed silent long enough for me to hear keys clicking. I didn't sign this. It came through your account. I'm looking. A door closed on her end. Are you at the office? I asked. Yes. With Evan? No. More typing. What did he suspend you for? I told her about the wet files, the transfer, DR7, and Rosa refusing approval. Send me his instruction, she said. You believe me? I'm asking for the document. That was not an answer, but it was more than I had gotten at dinner. I sent the email chain. While she read it, I sat on the hallway floor outside my apartment. The notice fluttered each time the air conditioning turned on. Mara, she said finally, what was the scanner's replacement cost? $3,860. Exactly? Yes. And he entered the full amount against your pay? Yes. I heard a drawer open. There's a manufacturer credit in the equipment account for $3,860, she said. Posted the Friday before the jam. I pressed my hand against the cool floor. He knew, I said. Celia did not answer. On her end, paper began moving. Not one sheet, a stack. Then she asked, where are the original calibration logs? Drying room cabinet, I said. Bottom drawer behind the mold masks. Are they supposed to be there? They're company records. Denise put them back after she found them. Found them where? Calvin had been told to shred them. Celia stopped moving papers. By Evan? You'll have to ask Calvin. I will. Make copies before you ask anybody anything. Her breath caught, almost a laugh. You sound like him. No, he would tell you not to make copies. The silence that followed was the first honest one we had shared in weeks. I'm coming over, she said. She arrived 40 minutes later with 2 file boxes in her trunk and rain spots drying on her jacket. I let her into my apartment, peeled the housing notice from the door, and put it on the kitchen counter. Celia stood in the middle of the room as if she had forgotten how small it was. The records annex occupied the first floor, and my apartment had been carved out of old office space above it. Pipes ran along one wall. The refrigerator shuddered every time it stopped. You said it was temporary when you found it for me, I said. I remember. So did I. She set the boxes down. One held calibration logs, copies of my warranty requests, and Evan's corrected uptime report. The other held equipment invoices and payroll summaries. There are 6 credits like the scanner credit, she said. 3 went into equipment income. 3 were applied against leases. In 4 of those months, employee quality bonuses were reduced for equipment damage. How much? $11,000 total. Did you know? No. She said it quickly, then her face tightened. I knew the bonuses were reduced, she added. He told me operators were mishandling equipment. I never asked for the service records. That answer cost her more. I opened the first box. The original logs smelled faintly of vinegar from the drying room. Calvin's session was used for several changes, she said. He says Evan asked him to clean up duplicate entries. Does Calvin know what was changed? He says he didn't. I believe he didn't want to. That's different. I know. She sat at the little table beneath the window. For once, there was no polished sales version of Celia. Her hair had come loose on one side. She kept rubbing her thumb over the pale mark where she had removed her wedding ring. I looked away first. Evan says the credit posted early because the manufacturer approved the claim by phone, she said. He says he intended to reverse your deduction before payroll closed. He entered it in front of me. He says he wanted to make a point about accountability. He made one. She nodded. He also says you're trying to take the company from us. Do you think I am? I think you want him to lose. He charged me for a scanner he already knew was covered. He used my name on a false report. He cut my pay, suspended me for following written protocol, and used your property account to raise my rent. I know what he did. Do you? Her head came up. I pushed the housing notice toward her. Because you keep saying that and then you tell me what he says. She read the notice again. I changed the property password, she said. I revoked his access. That doesn't answer me. No. She pressed both hands against the edge of the table. I don't know everything he did. I know what I let him explain. Rain ticked against the window. Celia opened the second box and removed a spreadsheet covered in yellow highlights. The Pelican contract loses money at the current volume, she said. He's been covering the gap with overtime deferrals, reduced bonuses, and equipment credits. He thought if we hit target for 1 quarter, he could force a rate adjustment. He told me that was the strategy. It wasn't a terrible strategy. No, he's good at this. Yes. Her eyes filled, which made me angry in a different direction. He built the sales side from nothing, she said. He got insurers to trust a company operating out of a warehouse that smelled like wet carpet. When a client called at midnight, he answered. When we couldn't make payroll that first year, he sold his car. I remember. I keep lining those things up against this as if one column can cancel the other. It can't. I know. This time, when she said it, I believed she was starting to. She slid a document across the table. It was the agenda for Pelican's quarterly contract review. Priya moved it to Monday morning at the intake floor. Why? She wants the equipment, source records, and production system in the same place. Luis is bringing the scanner back from service storage. With the defective assembly? Yes. Evan agreed to that? He thinks he can contain it. That sounded like him. Celia looked at my folded suspension notice beside the sink. I'm ending the suspension. Don't. Her eyebrows drew together. If you reverse it tonight, he'll say you intervened because I'm your sister. Leave the suspension in the record until the review. That costs you another week of pay. I know. And the apartment? Remove the employee discount from the lease entirely. Give me the same rent you charge for the vacant unit across the hall. That's higher than what you were paying. It's lower than his notice, and it means my home doesn't change when he changes my title. She studied me. You came prepared. I've had a long night. She corrected the lease on her laptop. When she turned the screen toward me, I read every line before signing. It hurt her. I signed anyway. On Monday, the defective scanner came back on a black service dolly. Luis rolled it through the secured doors at 9:15. The red factory defect tag was still attached, though one corner had collected lint from storage. He parked the machine in the pale rectangle beside intake, almost exactly where it had failed. Evan watched from the glass office. He wore his navy suit, the one he saved for contract renewals, and had printed presentation packets with dark blue covers. Calvin had production running at full speed on the borrowed scanners. The floor looked clean, controlled, profitable. I waited near the drying tables with Celia. My badge still didn't work, so Priya had signed me in as a visitor. Evan came out carrying his packets. I object to her attendance, he said. Priya followed him. I requested her attendance. She is suspended. She is the operator named in the records we're reviewing. She has an active grievance against the company. I have a correction request, I said. He ignored me. Priya set her notebook on the intake counter. We can discuss personalities, or we can discuss the contract. I have 2 hours. Evan chose the contract. For 20 minutes, he was excellent. He walked Priya through the recovery week, output by category, exception aging, staffing utilization, and the revised workflow that had put Tidelock 3% above target. He acknowledged reporting inconsistencies caused by migration between maintenance and production systems. He offered new controls. He spoke about partnership, resilience, and protecting Pelican's policyholders from unnecessary delay. If I had not known where the numbers came from, I might have trusted him, too. Priya turned one page in the packet. Your position is that the scanner downtime was captured incorrectly due to system migration. Yes. And that Ms. Velez's name appeared through an automated approval field. Correct. And that no production records were intentionally altered. Correct. She nodded to Luis. He unlatched the scanner's side panel. The warped assembly sat inside a clear evidence sleeve. Luis read the serial number from the plate, then the number from the recall bulletin. "They match," he said. "The warranty claim was opened by Tidelock Management 9 days before failure." Evan turned toward him. "Opened is not approved." Luis produced the service record. Approved Friday at 3:12, the Friday before the jam. Priya looked at Evan. "When was the employee deduction entered?" Celia answered. "Monday at 8:05. He glanced at her, and something private broke across his face. "The deduction never processed," he said, "because I required you to reverse it," Priya replied. "It was a management tool, not a financial action." My humiliation returned with startling precision. The mangled manifest, the open payroll screen, 6 people trying not to look at me. "You entered the full replacement cost under my employee ID," I said. "What was it meant to manage?" His eyes met mine. "Your carelessness." Luis rested one hand on the open scanner. The feed bar was already warped. "I'm not disputing the defect." "You did while he was showing it to you," I said. Evan's voice hardened, because equipment can be defective and mishandled. I took the calibration card from its red sleeve. The crease had whitened across the laminate where someone had bent it. I placed it beside the scanner, then opened the archived diagnostic images on Priya's laptop. Every morning, this card measured feed alignment, color drift, and roller pressure. The source logs show repeated errors beginning 3 days after installation. Priya compared the timestamps with Evan's report. "Why are these absent from the submitted uptime data?" Evan pointed toward the screen. "Because a calibration variance isn't downtime unless production stops." "It did stop," I said. 17 hours and 43 minutes total. That includes rerouting. It includes time the scanner could not process documents. We met volume, with overtime and 3 other units. He turned to Priya. "This is a definition dispute." I opened the operator session report. "Then this isn't." The report says Calvin approved calibration on September 12th at 7:45. His time card shows he entered the building at 8:23. Calvin stood at Unit 1, motionless. Priya called him over. He wiped his hands on his pants. "Evan told me to remove duplicate failures. He said restarts created extra entries." "Did you enter Mara's approval?" Priya asked. "No, I didn't have access to her field." Evan's expression sharpened. "Be very careful." Calvin looked at him, then at the scanner. "You told me the machine was fine," he said. "You said Mara was building a case because she wanted your job." Denise laid the paper logs on the counter. Rosa added the color validation record from Unit 4 and the transferred purple stamp from the wet shipment. Louis placed his service history beside them. No single document carried the whole truth. Together they left Evan nowhere soft to put it. He turned to Celia. "You know why I did this." Her wedding ring was gone. "I know what you told yourself," she said. "We would have lost Pelican." Priya closed his presentation packet. "You may still." His face changed then. The salesman disappeared, and the exhausted man beneath him finally showed. "You increased volume 44% without adjusting price," he said to Priya. "You held us to the original turnaround and threatened review when equipment failed. I had 23 people depending on me to make that work. You could have requested a formal capacity adjustment. With what leverage? An admission we couldn't handle the account? With accurate data. Accurate data would have killed the negotiation." Priya considered him. "Accurate data would have supported a rate review," she said. "Falsified data supports a vendor integrity review. That landed harder than anger." Evan looked at me. "And what do you think happens if she terminates? You think everyone thanks you while they pack their desks?" "No," I said. "I think that's why you kept using them as cover." Celia opened her highlighted spreadsheet. "There are 4 years of equipment credits and employee bonus reductions," she said. "I've engaged an independent payroll review. Any improper deductions will be repaid. You had no authority to do that without me. I have equal authority." We agreed I controlled operations. That agreement is over. For the first time, he looked afraid of her. Priya asked for a recess. She and 2 Pelican managers went into the glass office with the service records. Evan walked toward his office, but Celia stopped him. Your system access is limited to sales files until the review is complete. Gail has the notice. You brought Gail into this? She already knew the nouns. A surprised sound escaped me. Celia almost smiled. Evan didn't. Pelican kept the contract. The revised agreement was smaller than Evan's projections and less profitable than his promises, but it covered actual volume. Tidelock accepted independent maintenance reporting, quarterly source audits, repayment of improper employee deductions, and a clear stop work process for damaged originals. Priya removed Evan as approved operational contact. Celia removed him from payroll and equipment authority that afternoon. 2 weeks later, he resigned from Tidelock. Their marriage did not end in the intake room, but whatever decision remained between them had to continue without the company hiding inside it. Celia offered me operations director. I gave her 6 conditions: independent payroll review, written maintenance authority, a direct client escalation path, no family discussions inside performance meetings, my lease separated permanently from employment, and authority to stop production when source documents were at risk. She read the page twice. You don't trust me, she said. I trust what's written. That hurt her too. She signed. 3 months later, Luis returned the scanner with a new feed assembly. He left the red Factory-Defect tag with me. I framed it above the maintenance station. Before the Monday shift, I took the gray calibration card from its red sleeve. The crease remained, but the bands were still readable. I fed it into the repaired scanner. The rollers caught evenly. 7 gray bands appeared on the monitor, clean from edge to edge. I saved the result, wrote the time in the paper log, and initialed my own name. Behind me, the floor began its ordinary hum. I smoothed the card once with my palm and started the shift.